The sky over Earth had changed in an instant. People looked up with wide eyes as a silver ship appeared above the clouds. It moved without sound, casting a soft glow over cities, mountains, and oceans. No one knew where it came from or why it was there. Cameras captured the scene, phones recorded the moment, and news channels tried to explain what was happening, but no one could. The world had stopped, holding its breath. From the ship came a voice. It was calm but strong, reaching every corner of the planet through some invisible power. "I am the Empress of the Daeon Empire," the voice said. "I have the power to destroy your world in a single instant, but I offer mercy. I will spare your planet if one human comes with me willingly." Fear swept through people like a wave. Families held each other tightly, governments called emergency meetings, and soldiers prepared for the impossible. The Empress's voice continued, soft but commanding. "I have watched your planet for many years. I have chosen one. He will come with me." All eyes turned toward a young man standing in the crowd. His name was Oren. He was not a soldier or a scientist or leader. He worked as a simple technician, fixing machines and helping others quietly. He had never sought attention, and yet the Empress pointed at him. The world watched him, and he watched her, frozen in disbelief. Oren's heart raced. He felt fear, confusion, and a strange sense of responsibility all at once. He did not know why she chose him. He did not understand why a powerful being from another star would see something special in him. Around him, people whispered and pointed, some begging him to refuse, others hoping he would accept. He looked back at the silver ship. It shone like a star, and its surface reflected the clouds and sun. A ramp extended from the ship toward the ground, like a bridge inviting him. Oren took a deep breath, trying to steady himself. He felt the weight of millions of lives pressing on his shoulders. Every human on Earth was waiting for his answer. Leaders from many nations approached him carefully. They surrounded him in a circle, their voices filled with urgency. "You must understand what is at stake," one of them said. "If you refuse, our planet may not survive. You are the only one she will accept." Oren shook his head. "I am just a man. I have no power. I cannot decide for the world." "But you can," another leader replied. "She has chosen you because she believes you are capable. We must trust her judgment." Oren looked up at the ship again. The ramp glimmered in the sunlight. He felt small, but also strangely calm. The Empress's presence was not only terrifying, but also filled with a strange sense of order. She was not shouting or threatening in anger. She was quiet, but her voice carried weight. It made him feel that she truly believed in something beyond power. Finally, he stepped forward. Each step felt heavier than the last. Crowds parted around him, and cameras followed his movement. People whispered and cried, but Oren ignored them. He only focused on the ramp and the figure waiting above. When he reached the base of the ramp, he looked up. The Empress descended slowly, her armor shining in the sun. She moved with grace, as if every motion had been practiced for centuries. Her eyes were sharp and bright, but there was a quiet sadness behind them. She did not look like a ruler who wanted to destroy. She looked like someone who carried a heavy burden. "You are Oren," she said. Her voice was calm, not loud or commanding, but it seemed to fill the entire world. "I have watched you. I have seen your kindness, your honesty, your courage. That is why I have chosen you. You will come with me, and your world will be spared." Oren's lips trembled. "Why me?" he asked. "I am not special. I am just a man." The Empress tilted her head slightly. "You are human, and humans have a strength that even empires cannot understand. Your heart can guide more than armies or machines. That is what I see in you." Oren felt a mix of fear and pride. He could not explain why, but her words touched him deeply. He had never felt that anyone, especially someone so powerful, had seen him for who he truly was. He thought about the people he loved, the friends he would miss, the world he might leave behind. He thought about the millions of lives that depended on his choice. He swallowed hard and nodded. "I will go," he said. "But you must promise that Earth will be safe." The Empress's eyes softened. "I give you my word," she said. "I will not harm your planet. You will not be forced. You will go with me by your choice, and your world will continue to live." The crowd watched in awe. Some cheered, some cried, but most were silent. The tension in the air slowly lifted. People realized that the impossible might be prevented by a single human. Orin climbed the ramp carefully, each step making the world feel smaller and larger at the same time. As he reached the ship, the doors opened, and he entered a world unlike any he had seen. The halls were vast and glowing, filled with technology that seemed to move and breathe. The air was soft and warm, and light shone in patterns that reminded him of the stars above. Crew members looked at him with curiosity, some bowing slightly, some smiling, all watching the human who had been chosen by the Empress. The Empress followed him, her presence filling the space with quiet power. "You will learn much here," she said. "Not just about me, but about the universe. There is more to life than you have imagined." Orin nodded, feeling a mixture of excitement and nervousness. He had left his home, his friends, and the life he knew, but he felt that he was stepping into something greater, something that might change not just his life, but the future of all humans. He did not yet know the challenges ahead, the dangers of space, or the secrets of the Empire, but he knew one thing clearly. He was chosen, and his choice could save the world. As the ship lifted from Earth, the planet shrinking below him, Orin felt a quiet determination. He would not fail. He would face the unknown with courage. He would prove that humanity was more than small and fragile. He would show that humans could rise to greatness, even in the presence of stars and empires. The journey had begun, and with it, a story that would echo through the universe, telling of the human who stepped forward when the fate of a planet rested in his hands. The ship moved silently through space, leaving Earth behind. Orin stared out of the wide window, watching his planet grow smaller, a blue and green marble floating in darkness. The stars sparkled around him, endless and bright, but he could not focus. His mind was full of questions. What kind of place had he entered? What would the Empress expect of him? Why had she chosen him? The Empress walked beside him, her presence calm but strong. She noticed his nervousness and spoke softly. "Do not fear, Orin. You are not a guest here. You are part of something greater. I have watched your world, and I have seen your kindness. That is rare in the universe." Orin looked at her, still unsure. "Kindness? That is not enough to travel across the stars. I am just a man. I do not belong here." She smiled faintly, a small curve of her lips. "Humans have a strength that others cannot measure. Your courage, your compassion, and your honesty can guide more than armies or fleets. That is why I chose you." For a moment, Orin felt a strange warmth. He had always thought of himself as ordinary, unnoticed in the crowd. Yet here, in the presence of a ruler of millions of stars, he was considered special. He did not understand it, but he felt the weight of responsibility settle upon his shoulders. The ship's interior amazed him. The walls were smooth and glowing, and strange panels displayed information in lights and symbols he could not yet read. Crew members moved gracefully, attending to their duties, yet they watched him with curiosity. Some nodded as he passed, others whispered quietly among themselves. He realized he was not just a visitor but someone they respected. The Empress led him to a room prepared for him. It was simple but comfortable, with soft lighting and a window that looked out into the endless expanse of space. He could see distant stars, planets, and glowing nebulae. The room smelled faintly of flowers, though he knew no flowers grew here. It was a place designed to be calming, a small piece of home in the vast universe. "You will need rest," the Empress said. "The journey is long, and the universe has many lessons to teach. You will not understand everything at once, but you will learn." Orin sat on the soft chair and took a deep breath. He felt both fear and excitement. He thought about the people he had left behind, his family and friends. He thought about the billions of lives on Earth depending on him. But he also thought about the stars, the vast possibilities, and the strange hope in the Empress's words. After a while, she spoke again. "You must understand my empire, Orin. It stretches across many planets and stars. We have technology and knowledge that you cannot imagine. Yet we are not perfect. My people follow strict rules, and many do not understand the value of life as I do. That is why your presence is important. You remind me of what it means to be human, to care without expectation." Orin listened carefully. He had never imagined that humans could teach rulers of empires anything. He felt small but determined. "I will do my best," he said quietly. I will try to help, even if I do not understand everything. The Empress nodded, her expression thoughtful. That is all I ask. Do not fear mistakes. Even the smallest act of courage can change the course of events. That is what I hope to show my empire through you. Over the next hours, Oren walked through the ship, guided by the Empress. He saw chambers filled with strange machines that hummed softly. Some rooms had glowing maps of star systems, while others contained creatures he had never seen, carefully tended and studied. He realized the Empire had knowledge and power beyond his imagination, yet he noticed the emptiness in some eyes. The crew followed orders without question, but there was little joy or warmth. Oren understood what the Empress had meant. Even with all her power, she felt alone. He could see the loneliness behind her calm eyes, the burden of responsibility pressing on her shoulders. She carried the lives of millions, and yet she had few companions who understood her heart. He approached her carefully. "Do you ever feel alone?" he asked. The Empress paused, her gaze far away. "Many times," she admitted. "Even rulers of empires can feel isolated. I have advisors, soldiers, and subjects, but few understand the weight of what it means to rule with both strength and mercy. That is why I observed your world. I saw how humans care for each other, how small act of kindness can create hope. I wanted to see that once more." Oren felt a deep respect for her. She had the power to conquer or destroy entire worlds, yet she chose to seek understanding. He realized that strength was not only about force or technology. True strength was in the heart, and perhaps that was what the Empress had seen in him. As days passed, Oren learned more about life on the ship. He met members of the crew, who shared stories of distant planets, strange creatures, and challenges they had faced. Some were curious about humans, others skeptical, but all listened when Oren spoke of Earth, its people, and its values. He told them about friendship, teamwork, and compassion, and slowly they began to see the world through his eyes. The Empress watched silently, observing how Oren's presence affected her empire. She had hoped for this, but even she did not realize how powerful a single human could be. In his simple honesty, in his quiet courage, there was a strength that inspired loyalty and hope. One night, Oren stood at the window, looking at a distant planet glowing in the darkness. The Empress joined him, her voice soft. "Do you see that world?" she asked. "It is under my rule, yet the people there do not know peace. I rule with laws and order, but my heart wishes for more. Your presence reminds me that even the smallest life can guide the greatest power." Oren nodded. "I do not feel special," he said, "but if my life can help, then I will try." The Empress smiled, a faint but genuine smile. "That is all anyone can ask. Even the strongest empires need guidance, and sometimes it comes from the most unexpected places." As the ship continued its journey through the stars, Oren felt a quiet determination grow inside him. He was far from home, facing a universe of unknown dangers and wonders. But he also knew that he carried hope, not just for himself, but for Earth and for a distant empire that had yet to understand the value of life. For the first time, he realized that being chosen was not only a responsibility but also a chance to show that humans could rise to greatness, even among the stars. And in that thought, he found courage. The journey had only begun, but already Oren understood that his life, his choices, and his heart would shape the future of worlds. The stars outside seemed brighter, and the silence of space felt full of possibility. He was a simple man, yet he had become part of a story greater than he could imagine, a story that would test his courage, his heart, and the strength of humanity itself. Oren began to explore the ship more deeply. The Empress guided him through corridors that seemed endless, filled with lights and panels that glowed softly. Crew members moved with precision, but many stopped to glance at him. They had heard stories about the human who had been chosen, the one who carried the fate of his planet on his shoulders. Some looked curious, some doubtful, but all watched quietly. The Empress led him to a room with a large window overlooking a section of space filled with stars and a distant planet. She gestured for him to look. "This is Lyra," she said. "It is one of the worlds under my rule. Its people are strong, but they lack understanding and compassion. I hope your presence can show them that there is more to life than power and obedience." Oren felt a mix of awe and responsibility. He had never seen so many stars, so many worlds, and yet he understood the weight of her words. This was not just about Earth. His choices, his actions, could influence entire planets, entire civilizations. The Empress led him further into the ship, showing him chambers where knowledge from countless worlds was stored. There were glowing maps of galaxies, libraries of alien history, and machines that could predict cosmic events. Crew members explained what each room contained, and Oren listened carefully, trying to absorb everything. Even in this vast and powerful place, he noticed small moments that revealed the Empress's humanity. She paused to ask about the crew, ensuring they had enough rest and food. She spoke softly to the youngest members of the ship, listening to their stories and concerns. Oren realized that even rulers with immense power could show care, and that small act of kindness could influence an entire empire. One day, while walking through a corridor, Oren noticed a group of officers whispering among themselves. They glanced at the Empress and then at him, their expressions hard to read. He could sense tension, though he did not fully understand it. The Empress noticed his concern and placed a hand on his shoulder. "They are unsure of your presence," she explained. "Some believe that humans are weak and cannot influence the Empire. They do not see what I see. Do not fear them. They will learn, as all do, that strength comes in many forms." Oren nodded, feeling both nervous and determined. He realized that his presence was already changing the ship. He was not only learning about the Empire, but also teaching it about courage, honesty, and compassion. He could feel the crew observing him, wondering what a human could teach them that their vast knowledge and technology could not. The Empress continued to show him the ship's wonders. They visited training chambers where soldiers practiced maneuvers with precision. They explored science labs where experiments on distant planets were monitored. They even walked through gardens filled with alien plants, glowing softly under artificial sunlight. Oren marveled at the beauty and complexity of the Empire, but he also noticed a strict order that sometimes made life feel cold. During one visit to a strategic chamber, the Empress paused and looked at him seriously. "There are challenges ahead," she said. "Not everyone in the Empire will accept change. Some will resist. Some may try to harm those they do not understand. You must be prepared, Oren. Your courage will be tested, and your presence will matter more than you imagine." Oren listened carefully. Fear rose in his chest, but he did not step back. He realized that being chosen was not only about honor or privilege. It was about responsibility, about standing firm even when faced with doubt or danger. He felt a quiet determination grow inside him. He would not fail the Empress or the people who depended on him. Over the next days, he began to interact more with the crew. He shared stories of Earth, speaking about friendship, honesty, and compassion. He told them about how people helped each other in times of need, how simple act of kindness could change lives, and how courage was not always about strength but about choices. Slowly, the crew began to listen. Some were skeptical at first, but his words carried truth. They realized that a human, though small and seemingly ordinary, could teach lessons that even the greatest empires sometimes forgot. The Empress watched quietly, pleased that her choice was already making a difference. One evening, Oren and the Empress stood in a chamber overlooking a distant nebula. Its colors swirled in shades of blue, purple, and gold, casting a soft light on their faces. The Empress spoke quietly, as if sharing a secret. "You are teaching me too, Oren. Even with all my power, I sometimes forget the value of patience, of small kindnesses, of understanding. Your presence reminds me that even the greatest rulers can learn from the simplest lives." Oren felt a deep respect for her. He had never imagined that a ruler of such power could feel lonely or in need of guidance. He realized that even in a vast empire, human qualities like honesty, courage, and compassion could shine. He felt proud that his life, his choices, and his heart could influence someone so powerful. But not all moments were calm. One day, as he walked through a corridor, he noticed a group of officers speaking in low voices. They looked at him with suspicion and whispered quickly when he approached. The Empress noticed immediately and came to his side. "They are questioning your place," she said calmly. "Some do not trust humans. Some believe that only strength and order matter. Do not worry. They will learn in time. And if necessary, I will ensure that they understand." Oren felt a mixture of fear and resolve. He realized that being chosen was not only about learning but also about facing challenges. Some in the Empire would resist change. Some would doubt him. But he understood that courage was not the absence of fear. It was acting even when fear existed. That night, Oren stood at the window of his room, looking out at the stars. The universe seemed endless, and he felt both small and connected to something greater. The Empress's words echoed in his mind. He was not only a human in a vast empire. He was a bridge between worlds, a reminder that compassion and courage could guide even the strongest rulers. He thought of Earth, of his family, of the billions of lives depending on him. He knew that his journey had only begun, and the challenges ahead would test him in ways he could not yet imagine. But he felt a quiet confidence. He would face whatever came, guided by the simple truths of humanity. He would prove that human could rise to greatness, even in the presence of stars and empires. As the ship moved through the endless black of space, Oren felt a strange peace. He had left home, but he had gained a purpose. He had been chosen not because of strength or skill, but because of heart. And that heart, he realized, could change the course of worlds. The journey through the stars continued, and Oren prepared himself for the lessons, challenges, and adventures that awaited him. He did not yet know what dangers or mysteries lay ahead, but he understood that his life, his choices, and his courage would shape not only his future, but the future of the empire he had entered. And for the first time, Oren felt ready. Days passed on the ship, and Oren began to feel more at home among the crew. He learned about the routines of the empire, the responsibilities of the empress, and the secrets of the stars. Yet, even in this vast and shining place, a sense of unease lingered. He noticed that some officers and crew members avoided his gaze. Whispers followed him in corridors, and he often caught glances of doubt or suspicion. The empress sensed his unease. She walked beside him one morning as he observed a group of soldiers training. "You feel their doubts," she said softly. "It is natural. Some do not accept change easily. Some do not trust humans. You must remember that your presence challenges their beliefs. Do not be afraid. Your courage is stronger than their doubt." Oren nodded, though his heart raced. He was still learning the ways of the empire, and now he realized that knowledge alone would not protect him. Some would oppose him simply because he was different. He felt a mixture of fear and determination. Fear of conflict, determination to stand for what he believed. Later that day, a disturbance shook the ship. Alarms rang, and lights flashed red as the crew rushed to their stations. Oren followed the Empress, who moved with calm authority despite the sudden chaos. "Stay close," she said. "This is a test of loyalty and courage." They arrived at the central chamber, where a group of high-ranking officers confronted the Empress. Their faces were hard, their voices cold. "Your judgment has weakened the Empire," one officer said. "This human should not be here. He is weak, and his presence threatens our strength." Oren felt a chill run down his spine. He had never faced open hostility like this. He glanced at the Empress, who stood tall and unshaken. Her eyes, though calm, held a quiet fire. "Your strength is not measured by fear or obedience," she said. "True strength is in understanding, compassion, and courage. Oren embodies what we have forgotten." The officers exchanged glances, clearly unconvinced. They stepped closer, as if to challenge her authority. Oren felt his heart pound. He had no weapons, no power, yet he knew that stepping back was not an option. If he showed fear, it might embolden them. He took a deep breath and stepped forward, standing beside the Empress. "I am just a human," he said, his voice steady despite his nerves. "I do not command armies, and I do not control planets. But I know what is right. I know that kindness and courage can guide more than fear. I will stand with the Empress because she protects life, not because she demands obedience." The chamber fell silent. The officers stared at him, some angry, some shocked. The Empress placed a hand on his shoulder, a subtle sign of support. "You see, Oren," she said quietly, "even in the face of opposition, your voice matters. Courage can inspire more than any weapon." For a long moment, no one spoke. Then one of the officers, younger and less rigid than the others, stepped forward. "Perhaps we are being wrong," he said cautiously. "Perhaps there is value in what this human teaches." Others muttered, some reluctantly nodding. The tension in the chamber did not disappear completely, but the first cracks in the opposition appeared. Oren realized that even small words, spoken with honesty and courage, could change hearts. He felt a quiet strength grow inside him. After the confrontation, the Empress led him to a quiet observation deck. The stars stretched endlessly before them, silent and brilliant. "You did well," she said softly. "You faced them not with weapons but with courage. That is the power I saw in you. Remember, Orin, strength is not only in force. It is in choices, in compassion, and in bravery." Orin nodded, looking out at the stars. He understood more clearly now that his journey was not only about learning. It was about standing firm, even when others doubted him. It was about showing that humans, though small and seemingly fragile, could inspire change and hope. The days that followed were not easy. Some officers continued to watch him suspiciously, whispering in corners, testing his patience. Orin observed quietly, learning their patterns and understanding their fears. He knew that change was slow, and trust was earned, not given. Meanwhile, he continued to explore the ship with the Empress. She showed him planets where her empire maintained order, but where people lacked freedom. She explained that power alone could rule, but it could not inspire loyalty or love. Orin listened carefully, thinking about Earth and how humans live with both strengths and weaknesses, yet still cared for one another. One afternoon, the Empress took him to a room filled with star maps and strategic charts. She pointed to several distant worlds. "These are under threat," she said. "Some leaders seek conquest, others fear change. Your presence reminds me that even in such moments, compassion and courage can guide decisions. I hope to show my empire that leadership can be more than rules and obedience." Orin felt the weight of her words. He had traveled far from home, and now he was expected to influence not only one planet but many. He thought of Earth and the lives depending on him, of the crew watching him, and of the officers who doubted him. He realized that courage was not only about facing danger, but also about standing for what was right, even in complex situations. That evening, he walked alone to the observation deck. The stars seemed brighter than ever, and the silence of space felt comforting. He thought about the Empress, her power, and the empire she ruled. He thought about the crew, some curious, some skeptical. He thought about the officers who had opposed him. And he realized that even a human, seemingly small and ordinary, could make a difference. Courage and kindness were not weaknesses. They were strengths that could guide worlds, inspire change, and shape the future. The Empress joined him silently. Together, they watched the stars, a human and a ruler of many worlds, bound by trust and shared purpose. "The journey ahead will be difficult," she said softly. "You will face challenges, Orin, but remember this. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is acting even when fear exists. You have already shown that you are capable." Orin nodded, feeling a quiet determination. He had faced opposition, spoken his truth, and held his ground. He had learned that even in a vast empire, one voice could matter. One human could inspire change. And that realization filled him with hope and strength. The ship continued through the stars, moving closer to worlds both known and unknown. Orin prepared himself for the lessons and challenges ahead, understanding that the future of many depended not only on power but on courage, honesty, and the quiet strength of a human heart. He was no longer just a visitor. He was a bridge between worlds, a symbol of hope, and a reminder that even the smallest life could influence the greatest empires. The journey continued, and with it, the story of a human who dared to stand, who dared to teach, and who dared to shine in the darkness of space. The days on the ship passed, but the tension among some officers did not fade. Orin could feel it in the air. Whispers in the corridors grew louder, and suspicious glances followed him wherever he went. He knew that not all were ready to accept a human among them, much less one who stood beside the Empress. One morning, alarms rang suddenly, echoing through the ship. Lights flashed red as the crew rushed to their stations. Orin followed the Empress, who moved with calm authority despite the chaos. "Stay close," she said softly. "We must face this together." They arrived at the central chamber, where several officers had gathered in a clear act of defiance. Their faces were hard and eyes cold. "Your choices weaken the Empire," one officer said, stepping forward. "This human should not influence our decisions. He has no right to stand here." Orin felt a surge of fear, but he remembered the lessons he had learned. Courage was not the absence of fear. It was standing firm despite it. He looked at the Empress, who gave him a subtle nod. He understood that she trusted him, that she believed in the strength he carried inside. "I am not here to command or to fight," Orin said, his voice steady. "I am here to remind everyone that leadership is not only about orders and power. It is about understanding, kindness, and courage. The Empress protects life. That is why I stand with her." The officers hesitated. Some whispered to each other, clearly debating what to do. One of the younger officers stepped forward slowly. "Perhaps we have judged too quickly," he said. "Perhaps there is value in what this human teaches. Even the Empress has chosen him for a reason." Orin nodded, feeling a quiet confidence. Small voices could grow stronger, and even the most rigid minds could be moved by honesty. He realized that his role was not only to learn but to inspire, to show the Empire that strength came in many forms. After confrontation, the Empress led Orin to a quiet chamber with a view of distant stars. She spoke softly, as if sharing a secret. "You did well. You faced them without fear, without anger. You showed that courage and honesty can guide even the strongest hearts. Remember this lesson. The universe will test you in ways you do not yet know." Orin listened carefully. He felt the weight of responsibility settle on his shoulders once more. He was far from home, and yet he understood that the choices he made here could influence countless lives across the stars. In the following days, Orin continued to walk among the crew, speaking with them quietly. He shared stories of Earth, of its people and their simple acts of bravery and kindness. He told them how humans helped each other in times of need, how honesty and trust could inspire loyalty, and how courage often meant standing up for what was right. Slowly, the crew began to change. Some officers who had once doubted him now listened carefully. Others remained suspicious but respectful. The ship, vast and shining, began to feel more like a home, not only for Orin but for those who were learning that a human could teach lessons even to an empire. One evening, the Empress invited Orin to a chamber filled with glowing star maps. She pointed to several distant planets. "These are worlds under my rule," she said. "Many are strong, but some lack understanding of compassion and justice. Your presence reminds me, and the Empire, that leadership is not only about strength. It is about guidance, about showing the value of life." Orin looked at the maps, realizing the vastness of the responsibility he was now a part of. He felt small in the face of so many worlds, yet he also felt the quiet courage that had guided him from the beginning. One person, even a single human, could make a difference. As days turned and nights aboard the ship, Orin faced new challenges. Some officers continued to test him, questioning his opinions or ignoring his suggestions. Others watched silently, unsure if they could trust him. Yet he met each situation with patience and calm, showing that courage could be quiet, steady, and strong. One morning, the Empress called him to the observation deck. The stars stretched endlessly before them, a vast tapestry of light and darkness. She spoke softly, her voice carrying the weight of her empire. "There are those who wish to challenge me, Orin. They do not understand that power alone cannot guide an empire. Courage, honesty, and compassion are also forms of strength. You must remember this, for the days ahead will test all of us." Orin nodded. "I understand," he said. "I will stand with you, not because I am strong, but because I know what is right. That is all the strength I need." The Empress looked at him, her eyes filled with quiet respect. "That is enough, Orin. That is more than enough." The following days brought new lessons. Orin learned the ways of the ship, the routines of the crew, and the history of the Empire. He met beings from distant worlds, each with their own stories and challenges. He shared Earth's simple truths, and slowly he began to see changes. People listened more carefully, questioned less harshly, and some even smiled when he spoke. His presence, small but steady, had begun to influence the vast and powerful empire. One afternoon, the Empress and Orin walked through a chamber filled with strange alien plants glowing softly under artificial light. "Even here," she said, "life depends on balance and care. The universe may seem vast and indifferent, but every choice matters. You have shown that even a human can guide that balance." Orin smiled faintly. He felt proud, not of power or knowledge, but of courage and honesty. He realized that being chosen was not about privilege. It was about responsibility, about standing firm, and about showing the value of life even in the face of doubt. That night, he returned to his room, looking out at the stars. The silence of space felt comforting, and he thought of Earth, of the billions of lives depending on him, and of the vast empire he was now a part of. He understood that courage and kindness could guide even the strongest empires. The Empress's words echoed in his mind. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is acting even when fear exists. Orin smiled quietly. He had learned this lesson well, and he knew that the future held more challenges, but he felt ready. The journey continued, moving closer to distant worlds and new challenges. Orin, the human, had begun to show the Empire that strength came in many forms. His courage, honesty, and compassion were quietly changing hearts, shaping a future that no one had imagined. He was no longer only a visitor. He was a symbol of hope, a reminder that even the smallest life could influence the greatest empires. And in that realization, Orin felt both humble and strong, ready to face the days and challenges yet to come. The quiet hum of the ship was broken one morning by an urgent call from the command center. Orin, who had grown more confident in his role, followed the Empress as she moved swiftly toward the central chamber. The tension in the air was immediate and heavy. He could feel it in the gaze of the crew and the hurried movements of the officers. Something serious was happening, and he could sense the challenge was bigger than before. When they arrived, several high-ranking officers had gathered, their expressions hard and determined. Some whispered to each other, casting glances that mixed suspicion and anger. It was clear that a small group had grown bolder in their opposition, and this time they were prepared to act openly. The Empress stepped forward, her presence calm but commanding. "Speak your purpose," she said. "Do not waste words on fear or dishonesty." One of the officers, a man with cold eyes and a strict posture, stepped forward. "Your choice to allow a human such influence has weakened the chain of command. Your leadership is in question. We demand action. This human cannot continue to stand by you." Orin's heart raced. He had faced whispers and doubt before, but this was a direct challenge. The officer's word was sharp, meant to intimidate, and Orin could feel the weight of the Empire's power behind them. Yet, he did not step back. He remembered the lessons he had learned. Courage is acting even when fear exists, and strength is shown through honesty and heart. He stood beside the Empress and spoke firmly. "I am here because the Empress sees value in compassion, honesty, and courage. I am not weak. I am human, and I stand for what is right. If standing for life and justice is a threat, then so be it. I will not move, and I will not speak falsely." The chamber fell silent. Officers whispered quietly to each other, unsure how to respond. Some looked angry, others shocked. The Empress placed a hand lightly on Orin's shoulder, signaling her support. "You have courage, Orin. Remember, your honesty and bravery are stronger than force. The Empire must see that." The opposition did not give up easily. The officers argued, pointing to rules, traditions, and precedents. They claimed that humans were too fragile to guide decisions and that their presence would weaken the Empire. Orin listened quietly, his mind racing, but he refused to be intimidated. He knew that the future of the Empress's empire could depend on his calm and steady heart. Finally, he spoke again, his voice carrying through the chamber. "Strength is not measured only by power or rules. Strength is shown by courage, by protecting life, and by standing for what is right. The Empress has chosen me not because I am strong in battle, but because I understand these truths. That is a strength that matters." The room remained tense, but some officers began to soften. One, a younger woman who had previously doubted him, stepped forward. "Perhaps we have judged too quickly," she said. "Perhaps there is value in the human perspective. Perhaps courage can take forms we do not understand." The Empress's eyes glimmered with approval. She spoke gently but firmly. "Change is never easy. Doubt and fear are natural, but we must act with understanding. Orin has shown courage, and that courage strengthens this empire more than fear ever could. Those who resist must learn that strength is not only in command but in heart." Orin felt a quiet pride and relief. The officers remained, some still cautious, but the tide was turning. Even in the face of a serious challenge, his courage had helped guide the empire toward understanding. He realized that influence came not only from words but from the strength of being true to oneself. That evening, he walked to the observation deck with the Empress. Stars stretched endlessly around them, shining with quiet brilliance. She spoke softly, her voice carrying the weight of her wisdom. Today was a test, Orin. You faced not only fear but opposition, and you held firm. That is a courage that guides empires. Remember, even in difficult moments, your heart can influence more than any army or machine. Orin nodded. He felt a deep sense of responsibility, but also a growing confidence. He understood now that his role was not simply to learn, but to show the value of human qualities to an empire that had long relied only on power and rules. His courage, honesty, and compassion were shaping more than his own destiny. They were shaping the future of countless worlds. In the days that followed, the ship became quieter. The crew adjusted to the presence of a human among them, some still unsure, but many observing him with respect. Orin continued to share stories of Earth, of simple acts of bravery, of kindness that changed lives. Slowly, even those who had doubted him began to understand the truth in his words. One morning, the Empress called him to a chamber with glowing maps of galaxies. She pointed to several distant worlds that had been in conflict. These worlds are fragile, she explained. Some leaders seek to control through fear, others resist change. Your presence reminds me that courage and honesty can guide decisions, even when force seems easier. I hope to show my empire that true leadership is about life, understanding, and care. Orin looked at the maps and felt the vastness of responsibility. He realized that even a human, small in the face of countless stars, could influence choices that mattered. The courage to stand, to speak honestly, and to act with heart could shape entire civilizations. That night, he returned to his room, reflecting on the challenges he had faced. He thought of the officers who had opposed him, the crew who had watched silently, and the empress who had trusted him from the start. He understood that change was slow, but possible. Courage, honesty, and compassion could ripple outward, touching even the most hardened hearts. He looked out at the stars, endless and silent, and felt a quiet determination. He had faced doubt, challenge, and fear, and had stood firm. He understood that the journey ahead would bring more tests, more threats, and more moments of uncertainty. Yet he also knew that his heart, human and true, could guide him and those around him. The Empress joined him quietly, and together they watched the stars. The path ahead is not easy, she said, but with courage, honesty, and understanding, even the greatest empires can change. Orin nodded. He felt ready, more certain than ever, that humans could rise to greatness even in the vastness of space. His journey was far from over, but he knew that he had already made a difference. One human, small but steadfast, could guide even the strongest rulers. And in that knowledge, he found strength, courage, and hope for the future. The ship moved silently through the stars, carrying Orin and the Empress toward Earth. The journey had been long and filled with lessons, challenges, and moments that tested courage and heart. Orin looked out the window at the endless cosmos, reflecting on everything he had learned. He understood that humans, though small and fragile compared to the vast universe, could make a difference through honesty, bravery, and compassion. The Empress stood beside him, her eyes calm yet thoughtful. "You have grown, Orin," she said. "You have faced opposition, doubt, and fear. You have shown that courage is not the absence of fear, but the choice to act even when afraid. You have reminded my empire of truths it had forgotten." Orin nodded. "I have learned much from you, too," he said. "I have seen the power of responsibility, the importance of guiding with heart, and the strength it takes to lead with fairness. I feel ready for what comes next." The Empress smiled faintly. "Your world awaits, and so does mine. But more importantly, we have a chance to teach both empires something important. That even the smallest life can influence the greatest, and that courage, honesty, and compassion are forms of strength no power can destroy." As they approached Earth, the silver ship glowed against the dark backdrop of space. The world below looked peaceful, unaware of the lessons being learned among the stars. Cities shimmered with sunlight, oceans sparkled, and mountains stood tall, strong, and quiet. Orin felt a deep connection to his home, and a quiet responsibility to protect it. The Emperor spoke gently. "You will return to your people with new knowledge. The world has already seen that courage can influence beyond expectation. Your presence will remind humans that even small acts of bravery and honesty matter. You will show them that humanity can rise to greatness even among the stars. Orin felt a mixture of pride and humility. He had traveled far, faced challenges that tested his spirit, and yet he remained the same man who had been chosen from Earth. He had grown, but he understood that true strength came not from knowledge or power, but from heart. When the ship landed softly on the outskirts of a city, a crowd gathered, watching in awe. They saw the silver vessel descend, and the Emperor standing calmly at the ramp. And then they saw Orin, a simple human who had carried the fate of the world with courage and honesty. The Emperor spoke to the people of Earth. Her voice carried through the air, strong yet calm. I have visited many worlds, and I have seen power and knowledge beyond your imagining. But I have also seen something rare and precious. One human, Orin, has reminded me that courage, kindness, and honesty are forms of strength that even the greatest empires cannot ignore. Earth is spared, and it is because of this human that hope remains alive. The crowd listened in awe. Some cried, some cheered, but all understood that they were witnessing a moment that would change their world. Orin felt a quiet pride, but also deep humility. He had acted not for glory, not for reward, but because it was right. The Empress turned to him. You have done well. Your journey with me has taught many lessons, and it is not yet complete. Humanity has shown me that hope, courage, and kindness are forces stronger than fear. I leave your world in peace, and I leave you with a choice. You may continue your life, or you may join me to see more of the universe. The choice is yours. Orin thought carefully. He looked at Earth, at the people he loved, at the life he had known. And then he looked at the stars, endless and filled with possibility. He realized that he could not abandon the lessons he had learned. There was more to see, more to understand, and more to teach. I will come with you, he said finally, but I will also return. Earth is my home, and I must protect it and share what I have learned. Together, we can teach hope and courage across the universe. The Empress nodded, a faint smile on her face. Then we shall continue. Orin, together, we will show that even the smallest life can inspire greatness. Your heart has already shaped more than you know. As the ship lifted once more, Orin felt a quiet excitement. The universe stretched endlessly before him, filled with worlds yet to explore, challenges yet to face, and lives yet to touch. He understood that his journey had changed him, and that through courage, honesty, and compassion, he could influence more than he had ever imagined. The crew watched him differently now. Their respect was quiet but sincere. Some had once doubted him, but now they recognized that even a human could guide and teach lessons of heart and courage. The Empress's empire, vast and powerful, had begun to change, guided not only by rules and strength, but by the quiet bravery of a single human. Days turned into weeks as the ship traveled to distant worlds. Orin learned new lessons, faced new challenges, and shared the wisdom of Earth with civilizations across the stars. He discovered that humans could inspire not only hope but trust, courage, and respect. And wherever he went, he remembered the lesson that had guided him from the beginning. Even the smallest life could make a difference. One evening, while observing a nebula that glowed with soft, swirling colors, the Empress spoke quietly. You have done more than I expected, Orin. Your presence has changed not only the hearts of your people, but also the hearts of many across the empire. You remind us that true power lies not only in strength or knowledge, but in the courage to act with honesty and kindness. Orin smiled, feeling the truth of her words. He understood that his journey was not only about travel or discovery. It was about connection, about teaching, learning, and showing that even humans, small and fragile as it may seem, carried a strength that could influence worlds. Finally, the ship returned to Earth. The planet below seemed brighter, more alive. Cities bustled with new energy, and people moved with hope in their hearts. Orin stepped onto the ground, feeling the warmth of his home beneath his feet. He had returned not only as a traveler of the stars, but as a human who had reminded an empire the power of courage and heart. The Empress stood beside him, her silver armor gleaming in the sunlight. She looked at Earth with quiet approval. Your world is safe, she said, and humanity has shown that it is capable of greatness. You have reminded me, Orin, that even in the vastness of space, courage and kindness are forces no one can ignore. Orin nodded, feeling a deep sense of purpose. He had journeyed across the stars, faced challenges, and learned lessons that would guide him forever. And he knew that humanity, small but brave, could rise to greatness even in the presence of the universe's greatest powers. As the Empress departed once more to continue her journey, Orin stood on the soil of his home planet. He looked at the sky, where the stars stretched endlessly, and smiled. His journey was not over, but he had learned the greatest lesson of all: courage, honesty, and compassion could shape worlds, inspire empires, and remind all that even the smallest life could leave a mark on the universe. Orin took a deep breath. He was human, small but steadfast. And in that truth, he found strength, hope, and the promise of a future full of possibility.